Hey, this is Tim at Budget Appliance in Pensacola. What we're going to be doing today is doing some brazing work on a sealed system. This is a side-by-side refrigerator. The compressor has been replaced. During the replacement of the compressor, we had a problem with a line having solder stuck in it. So what I've done is I've cut the line where the solder joint was. We'll be resoldering this. What we're also going to do is take a look at the vacuum pump and how to use it. We're also going to be looking at torches and how to use an oxygen acetylene torch. Okay, so let's talk about the oxygen acetylene torch kit. Acetylene is the fuel source. This is the combustible material that's going to provide fuel for a flame. We're also using pure oxygen. Without oxygen, there is no flame. It will be quickly snuffed out. Using the kit itself, first thing we're going to do, a couple of things. Always make sure you have a fire extinguisher, particularly when working in a customer's home. Make sure you have good working devices, no cracks or burst in your lines. Sometimes you'll see a bubble in your line. It's time to replace that set. Your red side over here is going to be your acetylene. Green side is the oxygen. Turn the kit on. Simply turning it on with a simple valve. Some acetylene may have a special valve set here that requires a special tool. Usually comes with the kit. I'm going to turn these all the way on until it's seated, and then a slight turn. Same thing with the oxygen. Turning it on until the bottom's out, and then we're going to be cutting it back. Doing good. We're going to purge the air out of the lines. To get us an ignition, we're going to be using a sparker. A couple ways you can do this. First of all, make sure you're very familiar with your own set and how sensitive the adjustments are. What I like to do, get a little bit of acetylene, a little bit of oxygen, very little. Right there we have too much oxygen, so we're going to back off a little bit. That's acetylene burning right there. We're going to add a little bit of oxygen to it. From here, if you notice, turning up the oxygen, you'll get a much higher flame. It's also a lot hotter. A flame like that will go right through the copper. You need to back that out. And adjust the acetylene a little bit. Play around with your own torch kit. Learn how to use them and don't be afraid. That would be a good working flame for what we're going to be doing here. So what we're going to be doing is making a mend. What we have here is a filter dryer replacement. The tubing is very short right here. We're going to have to extend it with another piece of tubing to make a simple mend. To do so, we're going to find the right size tubing. Always sleeve over it, never sleeve in between it. Trying to get a smaller tubing inside there would restrict the flow and the machine will not perform quite properly. You also may get some noises. We're going to take an estimation about where we need to cut to make this mend, keeping in mind that we're making a bend in the tubing. I've already scored it. Two different cutting tools. We have a smaller one for tight spaces, larger one for larger pipe. It's also much quicker. What we're going to do is make sure it is positioned in between the rollers and the cutting wheel. Find my spot that I've already pre-marked. What I like to do is hold the tool in my right hand, holding the cutting tubing in the left hand, spin it in a clockwise direction. When you're spinning it in a clockwise direction, you're going to be turning this in a clockwise direction, thereby tightening the cutting wheel. Sometimes it's a little hard to get a grip on. So we're going to use some pliers here to hold it. There we have it. We're also going to be using a multi-size swagging tool. It's kind of like a hole punch. It's to size out your tubing properly. I've already punched one side to fit this tube. Now I need to punch the other side. Very careful with it. Don't set this end on anything that you're going to not want it to get hurt. Don't put it on the concrete. Holding your hand like that will be enough. Alrighty, we've already made our fitting dry run to make sure it was going to size properly. We've also cleaned it as well. Before you ever put heat to an existing Schrader valve, make sure you remove the valve inside. If you fail to do so, you risk it getting melted, and then you have to restart, cut a new one in there, start the process over. So it's just a lot easier to remove the valve, and that's it right there. What we're going to do is fire up our torches here. We'll be using 15% solder stick. You're going to heat the filter dryer first, then move heat over to the mend tubing. Slowly working your way back and forth. Until it gets a nice red. Don't try to add your solder until it gets red, because it won't stick. Starting to get there. Simply just touching the tubing, the solder on there, will create it to stick. Make sure you go around all sides of it. From the bottom, give it a little torch there. That will bring the solder in.